Hello, Fearless Gamers, and welcome to another podcast here on Fearless Games. Today it is me, Matt the Vet, and...
What's up? This is the Wildcard, James.
Alright, so pretty awesome. Technically our third podcast, so this is going to be pretty cool. So how you doing?
I'm not doing bad. I'm doing pretty good. How you doing?
I'm doing very well, especially since we've got the whole new Dark Angels Codex thing out now, which is ridiculously awesome.
Yeah, it looks good. My copy hasn't been shipped to me just yet. They kind of dropped the ball there, but it's the first time they've done it to me. Normally, I get the Codex like on the Thursday before it actually is released. So,
they have to check your credentials, make sure you're worthy of the inner circle.
That's true. But I like, from what I've seen with the Codex a little bit, and what I really like is the models. Good job with the kits that they released for it.
Oh yeah, definitely. One thing that I have noted with the Codex, without giving too much away, is you remember how I was sitting there going, oh, I'm going to have to reorganize everything to figure out what I need and all that crap?
Yeah.
Well, I just did my entire list that I have right now without altering a thing, except for some minor things that to make up for what I have in the list, and I have over 300 points left.
Yeah, that's understandable. I've noticed that with the new releases of the codices, is they'll do a point cost change, and certain things just get revamped. Like I hope our rhinos aren't 50, or I hope our drop pods aren't 50 points anymore. Like they used to be. One
thing though is I have noticed one mathematical error in the Codex, where it ends up being certain units. You know how when they do like you can add this number of units to it. Like a tactical squad, if you buy, it starts out with 5 guys, and if you buy 5 extra guys, it's literally like buying a second tactical squad and just mushing them together.
Yeah.
Well, one unit ends up being 1 point more if you add the extra guys to it than they would be normally. But when I looked at it, it just ended up it's because of the rounding.
Gotcha.
Splitting the original point cost amongst all the units. It's like at a 0.67, so rounded up, it would make them 1 point more.
Makes sense, and I'm curious, does that make it end in a 5 or a 0 for the total points?
No,
you know what I mean?
It actually, if this was if you had everything perfect at 1850, this would turn to 1851.
Gotcha. Okay, I was wondering if maybe it made it so it would round it, but I guess not.
Yeah, no, it's literally 1 point.
Yeah, that is a little weird, but what you gonna do? Maybe they'll errata that in the future just to make it easier.
Possibly, but like I said, when I did the math, it ended up being like each unit ended up being like 26.65, so it would be rounding it up by 1 point.
Gotcha.
But the kits are ridiculous. Like I looked through the Ravenwing kit, and they give you enough stuff where, like, thanks to the Dark Vengeance kit, I could, using the command box set, make 4 Black Knights.
Nice. See, what I like about the kits is that, like, that Ravenwing kit, what I like about it is it's purely just for, like, non-regular Ravenwing.
Yep.
Because it's plasma guns and whatnot. Because you have a regular Ravenwing kit already.
Yep.
So it's 2 Ravenwing kits, what I like. But I like that you have all the bits and stuff left over. Like they talked about it on Games Workshop's site for the Deathwing Command. That all the stuff extra you can add on to regular Terminator squads you have to make it look Deathwing.
Yep.
So,
and what's also neat is like even some of the bits, like, and good example is say if you decided you used them to make Black Knights, you still have bits to make an apothecary and a standard. You could just turn 2 regular dudes into the set. So that's, in essence, it saves you money on a kit that you wouldn't normally buy.
Yeah, I mean, it's the extra bits let you potentially create another unit that you couldn't, or another squad, another model that you couldn't, and it's just nice because this has kind of been, I want to say, kind of a trend that Games Workshop has had, that they kind of done more so, is giving you more bits than you can possibly use in a kit. And it's almost like, okay, here's your squad, but now if you don't want to spend money for a specific Deathwing command or a specific, even, let's say, Honor Guard or Death Company, you have bits in any of those kits that have been coming out recently that you can take a regular tactical squad or a regular assault squad and then give it technically aka conversion bits to turn it into a Blood Angel squad or a Dark Angel squad without having to buy that kit.
Yeah, the only issue I've had is the flyer. For the price that you're paying, it's one of the only kits where it just builds the model and then there's nothing extra left over. So it's like for the price that you're paying, it's a little much for what you're getting. If anything, it's probably the only issue I've had with the new release right now.
Yeah, that's true, but I look at that with how vehicles have been, which is like the Land Raider kit, for example, builds you a Land Raider, and then you basically have nothing left over. But what I like is the infantry kits really give you enough to kind of bolster your forces a bit, because they're trying to make money, but they also understand the fact that you're gonna have people that you maybe gonna like models that maybe we're gonna break down because you got these new bits to add to them. People do that all the time, but what I really like is that they did a recast of Asmodai.
Oh yeah.
He looks so much better than he did, and he's like the only Dark Angel model talked about favorably on Games Workshop's website. It's like the only character that they like, apparently. Because they were talking about how he's really grim and awesome, and he is, and his model fits it perfectly. The only thing that's weird, I don't know because I don't have the Codex yet, but when you click on him on Games Workshop's website, you can scroll down and see his weapon skill, like his profile a bit, and what war gear he has. And it's weird because his war gear does not list a bolt pistol, but he quite clearly has one on his hip.
Oh, that thing on his hip?
No, he has the Blades of Reason on his hip. You look on his left side, the hand that's pointing. That's a bolt pistol over there. So I don't know why, at least on the website, it doesn't include it in his war gear. I hope it's in the Codex that he has that. Just because it'd be a weird thing for me if it's modeled on him. You should have it. Especially as a special character. Yeah,
that is kind of weird. I don't know, like my Codex is way on the other side of the room and I don't feel like getting up to look at
exactly. No, that was just one weird thing I noticed. But what I do like is that, because I've noticed, because I pay attention to Games Workshop website a bit, and I've noticed that with some of the new releases, they kind of fall behind and they eventually get up there. But all of the Dark Angel stuff has the stat line there to show you. So it doesn't explain the special rules or special war gear. It doesn't explain. It just shows you as listed in war gear. And it doesn't show you special rules. But it shows you, for example, Samael's stat line. So if you're interested in going, as a new player, I want to get into Dark Angels, since we're talking about them. Azadai looks cool, and 40k, let's say, or what enough. You look at his stat line and you go, oh, okay, so this is how he is. That's not bad. Or you can look at Belial and go, alright, you know what? His stat line looks cool, but he doesn't have enough. I don't like the fact that his war gear doesn't have such and such, like let's say grenades, because Terminators never have grenades. But that's one thing. It's a random side note because we can do that. Come on, Marines. Terminators have a hand to throw grenades with. I understand balancing issues, because if you gave Lightning Clawed Marines grenades, it would be like, oh, okay, just charge through cover without coming out of a Crusader. But come on, carry that. It's the same issue I have with having unhelmeted models. I understand special characters look cooler, but come on. That's why I like Asmodai. He has a helmet on.
One cool thing that I did notice is that there is a couple of pieces of war gear that I've always wanted to see, and I'm glad that it's there. And I also like how the war gear in the book is done. It's kind of back more to that old traditional set. Instead of going, okay, he can get this, and making his entry like half a page long, they just say, okay, he can pick from this category, this category, this category, and then there's one page of just a list of all the war gear and their prices in those categories.
I've noticed that in the Necron Codex when that came out, and then I also noticed it more so in the Chaos Codex for 6th edition that I have. That it's also the same way. It makes it, it takes a half a minute just to get, okay, this is where I go to search, because I got so used to the other one. But it's gone back, like you said, but it's a lot easier to read than the old. Like, look at the Black Temple Codex. You're like, what can I take? What's going on?
Yeah. No, I definitely like this kind of setup, because I guess for me, it's a little bit easier. Plus, also, say if it allows you to do 2 or 3 characters at once, because you can go, okay, my librarian can take from this group, my veteran squads can take from this group, and you can just do it all at once instead of just sitting there going back and forth, flip-flopping through all of it.
Oh yeah, I like it too, and what I like about it is, now this is maybe a psychological thing, but it feels like there's more options available to units than they used to be, because instead of having it listed in their entry, and they're trying to say, you don't want to have a half a page for every entry.
Yeah.
Now they can check out this page, so it kind of gives you a little bit more, at least psychologically, it feels like you got more options to play with than you used to have.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Now, one question the one thing I am concerned with, since I don't have the codex that I can say this, it says in a Deathwing squad box, is in the description, it says the bulk of the first company is composed of Terminator squads, and that scared me when I first read that, because Dark Angels, their first company is supposed to be only Terminator squads. So I hope they didn't take the first company and give them some power armor, because the Deathwing is supposed to be purely Terminators, unless Deathwing is something that's outside the realm of companies now. I don't know.
I haven't read the fluff too much, but so far from the feel that I've been getting from the Codex, I don't believe they have started mixing matching. I think it's just a poor wording on their choice.
Yeah, and compounding that is when you go to the Elite section of Dark Angels, it shows Sterngard veteran squads.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't scare me, because the Dark Angels have company veterans. Third through all 9th, because 10th is all scouts.
Yeah.
3rd through 9th could technically have company veterans. That's the whole point of them. So I'm guessing Sterngard are just company veterans, which is fine. That makes sense to me.
Which,
and it's interesting,
maybe they're probably arguing the fact that technically they are part of the Deathwing, but they're not fitted in power armor, and they're like the Deathwing representatives in the other companies on the front where the Terminators cannot be used, possibly?
It's possible. I mean, Deathwing is both the squad and kind of like part of the council. You can be like Deathwing and not be in the Terminator company.
Yeah, like the librarians and all that can technically be part of Deathwing.
Right. It's a weird wording if you read some of the older novels, like the one old novel, Angel of Darkness, and everything like that. They kind of say you're in Deathwing, but they're in power armor.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't mean like it used to be like synonymous with the inner circle as well, so that's fine. But what I find interesting and I like, because this is definitely how I always describe the Dark Angels to people, is Dark Angels are shooting. They like to shoot. Look at you got a plasma cannon on Terminators. How cool is that?
That is awesome.
But there are no Vanguard veterans. At least they don't have it for sale. I don't know about the Codex, but just going on showing what's for sale. I mean, you go through all of the HQ Elite troops and everything like that in the Dark Angel section, no Vanguard veterans. So if that's how it is in the Codex, that to me helps solidify the fact that they're gonna shoot you.
Oh yeah.
Why not?
There is a lot of options for a lot of guns in the Codex, and there is one or two interesting close combat choices, but I think it was more designed so you'd have at least one unit to help you against the close combat armies out there. But it's not like it's like I said, they're not very. They kind of tend to have. It seems, going off of a lot of what they're doing, a lot of it is more leaning towards firepower over close combat.
And when you read the fluff, like, the old thin Dark Angels Codex, like the 2nd edition Codex and everything like that, everything is about them shooting their opponents to death.
Yep.
Like there's a fluff in there of Tyranids attacking this like citadel, like this church thing of theirs, little chapel, and they never get into close combat with him. They just have a good gun line, then the Terminators step forward and support the gun line and push them back with just firepower. And it's not like the Dark Angels, they're Space Marines. They're not missing close combat. Their Deathwing quite clearly is capable in close combat.
Yeah.
Raven is capable in close combat. Asmodai is built for close combat. Like, they have it, but it's not like... The thing I like about them is they keep with the feel of 40k a lot, close combat and shooting. But I like my sci-fi stuff shooting dependent, because it makes sense to me. And that's why I like the Dark Angels, and that's why I like Tau, for example, and the Necrons, because they're like, you know what? This gun is really good. So instead of swinging a sword at you, which exerts more, energy just to try and kill you, I'm gonna shoot you, and I'm gonna hurt you a lot. And I like that.
It is really awesome. And speaking of Dark Angels, have you had a chance to look at the new book Ravenwing yet?
I haven't had a chance to look at it yet. It's something I do want to take a look at, just because I'm a big fan of Ravenwing. The only reason I play a Deathwing army that I've had is because I like Terminator squads that much. But I'm a huge fan of the Ravenwing.
Well, once my army's complete, we can just do Apocalypse games together and just represent both companies at once.
That would be cool. And I'm glad that Ravenwing got stuff. Now, I want to talk about one little hubbub thing that people are hubbubbing about, and that's the Landspeeder Vengeance.
Yes.
It looks a little weird, and the thing is, when we think Landspeeder, we think super fast platform. And the thing is, this is a support weapons battery, basically, for the Ravenwing. This is, in a sense, was going to sub or replace Devastators, because if you're going for a pure Ravenwing, that's the one thing that's always was lacking in Ravenwing armies was good firepower punch that wasn't just mid-range.
Yeah.
And it still is lacking that a bit, because I can't imagine the plasma is going to be that much longer than regular plasma range. But this is giving Ravenwing more utilitarian, more of a toolbox, and it's really just a big grav gun.
Essentially it is a very anti-horde gun, because it can do either one large blast or 3 small blasts.
Yeah.
And also, like, the biggest thing I've always said is, like, I don't get why everyone, like I mentioned this in the first pass, I don't get why everyone hates the dude with the shrine on his back, because because of the description of what that dude's supposed to be doing. What else do you expect around him other than just giant computers and stuff like that?
Yeah, and the way they describe it, it makes sense. And hello, the Exorcist of the Sisters of Battle. Yeah. He doesn't get more 40k feeling than having a shrine on your vehicle.
Yep.
That epitomizes the Imperium in 40k, is having a shrine brought into battle on something. Very impractical, but that's what it makes. And look at the Flyer. The Flyer has a shrine in its back if you get Dark Talon or whatever it is.
Actually, reading the fluff off the GW website, that is actually where they keep a Fallen after they capture him.
Which is cool.
Which is like, so it's basically a giant prison, little prison box so they can fly him back to whatever base that they need him to get him to at the fastest possible way. Which is an interesting idea, because looking how they're like, oh, the Ravenwing are supposed to hunt down the Fallen, they're like, well, how do they get them back on those bikes? They clearly can only hold one person.
Yeah. The Ravenwing and Deathwing work hand in hand to capture the Fallen. But I mean, it's a shrine on the back of a plane.
Yeah.
It's a shrine on the back of a Landspeeder. It doesn't get more 40k feeling than for humanity than having something gothic looking on the back of your vehicle.
Yeah.
So I don't really have a problem with that. The Landspeeder does look very weird because of the cupola in the front. But again, that's the way it's stylized is very Dark Angel.
Yeah. I could definitely.
And it's gonna look a little weird. It's going to look a little weird, and it is a little unorthodox, but it's just part of that's 40k. I mean, it's not gonna. I'm not saying people should like the look. It's all subjective.
Yeah.
But like, I'm okay with it. I personally would like it to be more traditional, where the gunner is sitting next to the pilot.
Yeah.
But that's okay, because it's different, and it's gonna make it stand out on the battlefield.
Yeah, if I would have to say, if there was any type of conversion that anyone wanted to kind of think of doing for the Landspeeder to adjust its appearance for aesthetic looking, is to replace the pilot with the gunner, and then just argue that the pilot's in the glass window, and he just doesn't want to get shot at because he's driving.
Exactly. I gotta drive this thing. I don't want to get shot at. But
an interesting thing is, just going off is we just recently, unfortunately, we didn't get the last Legends of War thing up because the Stark Lord has yet to put it in the Dropbox. I'm sure he's going to tell me later why.
Right.
But it was a pretty intense game at one point, and we're probably going to get called out because I did do a rule wrong with teleporter homers.
Okay.
I actually, just so I can say, I've been aware of the whole thing, is I accidentally, the Ravenwing came on the field, and I used their teleporter homers for my drop pods, forgetting that you can't do that.
You're right. It's a little a rules mishap, and it's not anything in a tournament. Sure, maybe it would have been a big deal, but and it's forgettable because other codices stuff have locator beacons, which are basically teleport homers for drop pods.
Yep.
And it's something that, yes, people are gonna call you out on it, but that's one thing. that I've been talking about with actually the clown when we were hanging out a while ago is, actually talking about that also with the Stark Lord in terms of RPGs, and it's like, how many people really remember and use all the rules in a casual thing anyway? I'm not trying to make an excuse for people not to use the rules. You should always try and learn, but you're gonna have rules mishaps, things not working quite right. Maybe, and people are not gonna catch it because it seems, it makes sense. It's a homer. Okay, well, it's coming from space. Why not lock on to the homer? But I like to learn the rules and play the game, but I'm gonna mess up stuff. Like I messed up. I remember playing casually, and the other person didn't catch it either. I messed up with the artillery firing, barrage firing over terrain, and I rolled cover saves for it, and he didn't stop me and I shouldn't have, because it's not shooting, it's lobbing it. It's not like it's firing through the terrain, so I would not have had cover saves. But I rolled for cover saves anyway, and we both just didn't catch it.
Yeah.
And that was tournament play, and it wasn't that big of a deal because I'm bad at rolling anyway. I only got one save, but especially when it's a casual house game, that's something like that. People may try to make a fuss about it, let's say, but if it happens, it's gonna happen, and it's not really gonna affect anything.
We actually had one of those types of moments in the game where we thought of you immediately because it was like something that would happen like if it was you in that same situation. Whereas a Stormbolter fired at the Stark Lord's burger bot with his broadsides, and he was like, "Okay, you gotta roll. Stormbolter wounded your gun drone." He's like, "Oh, it's 2-up save," and he just casually threw the die, and it ended up rolling a 1.
Yeah, exactly.
And then he had 2 Tau warriors that were just like massive troopers and survived a whole onslaught of Blood Angels. To the point where, like, you gotta name those Tau now because they've lived through so much.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You have that happen, and, like, with my Deathwing, that reminded me, I lost a Deathwing squad to lasguns. And it wasn't, like, a full squad, and it wasn't a massive firing. I had to make 5 armor saves. And I failed all 5 in one go.
Oh, man.
But I had a lone Deathwing guy in a different game. He's just a Deathwing dude with his regular, with the Power Fist, nothing special, no Storm Shield or anything. Take down a Hive Tyrant in close combat by himself and make all of his invulnerability saves. So it's like it's up and it's down. Like when I'm bad, I'm really bad, but sometimes I get on a hot streak like I did with that one dude, but I can't make a regular 2-up armor save to save my life.
It's like with that in like that one Tyranid game when we were at Brothers Grimm where that guy's like Servo Sco or something ended up dropping like 2 Hive Tyrants when the regular Space Marines couldn't touch them. Yeah,
I remember that. And it's the weirdest thing. And that's also like why it's like, well, I should just play Horde. I mean, I can make the bad saves, but I can't make elite saves. But yeah, it is moments like that in games. But the whole concept of just when you're playing, whatever you're playing, that's I've noticed, and I was talking about it with the Stark Lord, is we're talking about with RPGs how when we're talking about Dungeons and Dragons, because whatever.
Classic.
And I was like, you know what? I don't think I've ever played in a D&D game where we use every rule and correctly, A correctly and B every single rule. It's always something been house ruled and always stuff that we just kind of brush over because we were playing for fun. It wasn't like there wasn't money on the line. It was fun. And you want to have fun, you want to progress the story, you want everybody to feel important, and we left out certain things. Like we put time to talk nerdy, we put Vorpal on my guy's rapier, which can't have Vorpal. Because
it's a piercing weapon and Vorpal's a slashing.
Did it to represent how magical this weapon was, that it could do stuff and like it could like explode heads basically, and so we just threw it on there and we didn't care. Nobody made a stink about it. But I do know there are some people who will play to the letter, to the rules, and I was talking about it. I'm like, you know what? If I ever played in a game like that, I wouldn't even know how to play because I don't know all the rules.
Did you ever hear of the Abominable story?
No.
Okay, there was this game, and supposedly they had like a guest GM who was like, from my understanding, like it was supposed to be some really good, like really well-known person in the Dungeons and Dragons community and such. And he starts up a game with this, this adventure. It's a special guest GM thing, so it was really exciting, big news. So he goes through the game, and the very first part is the adventurers reach this town. And in the town, there's, some people walking around, and they see this fortune teller. And they go up to the fortune teller, and the fortune teller's like, oh, I am, so I can see into the future, and I can tell you what your fate is. Would you like me to read your future for you? And the adventurers are like, yeah, sure, why not? I'm curious. Now, the game has only been playing for maybe 3-4 minutes when this happens. The fortune teller reads their palms, and the fortune teller immediately drops their hands and eyes wide and go, you must turn back right now. If you continue on your quest, your death is abominable. You cannot... You will die if you keep going forward. There's no way to escape your fate.
Okay.
And the party adventure's like, oh, she's talking about, the whole Dharma thing. We're going to keep going anyway because, we're adventurers. What's an adventure without adventuring? And so they start heading out of town, and there is a guy who's herding cattle past them. And they're told to make listen checks, and they listen, and they notice that when this bull comes by them, they hear this ticking sound. And as soon as the bull gets right in the center of where they are, it explodes, killing all of them, because their death was a bomb in a bowl.
Oh, God.
And
that's hilarious.
It's been listed as one of the worst GMing moments out there.
Oh yeah, I imagine. But yeah, I mean, it's just I've never, and it's not because I don't want to play the game quote unquote right. It's just and that's not. I just use D&D in any role playing game, even when I do stuff with White Wolf and Fantasy Flight and whatnot. It's you just make it work. You just gotta go make it work and just have fun with it.
Yeah, that's the major point, is to have fun over anything.
Yeah, and they jump around because that's what I do because I'm the wild card. I was double checking the new release section because I noticed that in an email the Games Workshop sent out that they did stuff not just for Dark Angels. It wasn't on the advanced order. It just came out in new release. So the Heroes of Rimworld, the Legion of the Damned, you can get little kits and stuff. If you look at new releases on their website, anybody listening in, I don't know how long it's going to stay there because I don't know how long they keep the releases there. Probably until Monday.
Do you have a link?
Yeah, you go. I got a link. I'll send it to you somehow.
It's through the chat on the thing.
Yeah, because we have that capability. Boom. I did it, I think.
Yep.
But if you scroll down in releases, you see the Warrior Ancients. You get one of each Dreadnought from them. You get the Ironclad, the Venerable, and the Regular. Rapid Responses, 2 Scout Squads, the Scout Bikes, and the Landspeeder Storm, or whatever it is. It's just little bundles that they have.
And the Drop Pod Assault, which is one of my favorite kits that they make.
Yeah, and the only one that's weird is Heroes of the Space Marines because it's different special characters, and that's just really, I guess, for collecting. Everything else really makes sense. Like Heroes of Rimworld gives you Crimson Fist upgrades to 2 tactical squads, gives you Pedro, and gives you a command squad with their upgrades. So that's just something that's cool that I noticed that I didn't really advertise in advanced ordering at all. It just came out with so that's pretty cool. They have Arneas Calgar there in his power armor. His old model. Oh, man. One
thing that throws me off completely with the release order is they put Samuel's jet bike as the Corvex version.
Yeah.
And so I'm so used to him just being called the Samuel, and so every time I see the Corvex, I'm like, is it a new model? What's the difference?
Yeah, they just gave it a name.
Yep.
That's really all they did. Just like they gave a name to, and I don't know about this Codex, I'm sure, but Azrael's Combi Plasma.
Yeah, it's the Lion's Wrath or something.
It's like Roar or something like that. They gave it a name, and it's just the same thing. They just named it.
Yep.
One thing that reminded me, talking about combi weapons, some people have been saying how Games Workshop is introducing mini feats and stuff that you can do once per game with the squad, kind of reminiscent of War Machine or whatever. And that's great, taking ideas from each other. Everybody does it, but I just want people to realize that this has always been in 40k.
Yeah.
There's always war gear that has a one-time use. Hunter-killer missiles are a one-time. You could technically call that a little mini feat your vehicle popped.
Didn't also the Blood Angel's Apothecary have something with the blood cup that he can reveal once a game?
I think the special guy did. I know regularly it was just an AoE effect to give him special rules, but I think the special character has a thing you can do once per game. I forget.
Yeah, and I think the Sacred Standards also had like some one per thing.
You could like do something once per game with it, I believe, or you used to back in the day. But like that, it's always been around. And if you just look at combi weaponry, once per game you can fire the plasma instead of your bolter.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to take away saying War Machine doesn't do that and it doesn't do it well, because it does. But I just think people got to remember that this has been a War Games period, having this like once per game type of effect.
I think it's more of the grass is always greener type of thing, and it's more because it's not it wasn't so prominent in Warhammer 40k, and to be honest, like back when there was a whole bunch of stuff, and even today, I very rarely notice anyone using the one-time abilities, primarily because those situations where it's a one-time ability, what's the best time to use it, and you can't really think of a situation where it would be useful. But in War Machine, there's always like a situation where that one-time thing can be used, and it's a little bit clearer, in my opinion, as to when the one-time use abilities could be used. And that's where I think it's coming in, is primarily is now the one-time use abilities are coming in a sense with situations more clearly, so it's easier to recognize a situation where the one-time ability can be used, and thus people are starting to now take notice of the one-time uses in 40k rather than they used to.
Oh yeah, I agree. It's just that fantasy had one-time stuff too. You had like the scrolls and whatnot. It's just, I don't know. It's just funny because I guess people are waking up and just recognizing it through another game. But it's always kind of in there, and I'm not taking away. I mean, I don't play the machine game, but it's just funny because I looked at it and go, well, yeah, I guess you could say that, but at the same time, we've always had this, when you have hunter-killer missiles, and you had the combi plasma, and you had a squad that could do a one-time thing, and, it's true, a lot of people never used it because they never had a good time to use it, except the only thing that really was used was combi weapons.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, this is a good time to use the combi flamer because there's a whole bunch of orcs in front of me. Do it. But,
speaking of War Machine, we actually just did a battle report with a box set starter kit in War Machine, showing someone how to play the game.
That's cool. That's something that I thought we should do, and I'm glad we did.
Yep, I found someone, one of our friends, who is a press ganger at Brothers Grimm down in the Center Reach area. We were planning to play a game, and I met a coworker who only plays Magic. Like, that's pretty much the only gaming thing he does. And I was like, hey, would you be interested in doing a quick learning of this, this game? It's really super easy, and we just want to get someone's opinion who's never played the game before. And he's like, yeah, sure. And he actually found the game very interesting and said if he had the cash, he would definitely be picking it up.
That's cool. I mean, it's always good to have that type of response. And the fluff, if you will, of War Machine, I like the feel. I like the look and feel. I just don't like. I'm just not super into playing it. It's just, but it looks cool. I like the look of, especially the War Machine stuff. The Horde stuff, I don't really care about.
Yeah, the one thing that I find interesting that I'm probably going to be picking up with is there's the thing that they do called the Journeyman League.
Okay.
Where it starts out with a battle box set. And as the league goes on, you get instant gratification for little things throughout it, and it kind of promotes you doing stuff. Like, a good example is, okay, you buy the, let's just say for argument's sake, you buy the Signar Battle Box set. Okay, it's like, okay, and you come into the first game and it's unpainted. So you go, you run through your first game, your next game, it comes painted. You go, hey, you get the painting badge, and now you have the badge of saying that you finished and painted fully the 3 models that came in the battle box set. And then then the next game, you come in and you have a second defender in your army. Hey, you just got the expansion badge for buying another item for your thing. Like, they kind of really reward you in going through the hobby, and in a sense kind of promote you doing more with the hobby than just buying the models and playing the game.
That's cool.
And that was actually something that I was thinking, if I were to go back into War Machine, I may wait for a Journeyman League just so I get that fun thing, because it's neat. It's fun to implement more parts of the tournament, because then for me, who has horrible luck at tournaments, I can go, yeah, I didn't win the tournament, but I got the Painter's Badge, I got the Expansioner's Badge, I got this badge, I got all these different awards. The only thing I missed out on was getting the store credit that I would have gotten if I won.
Yeah, and that's cool. And I mean, it's basically taking the video game mentality with achievements and putting it into more applications, which is a brilliant move, really, because getting these little achievement things makes you want to continue on, because you're getting the gratification, you're getting rewarded for doing something. And a lot of stuff, even outside gaming, has stuff like that, and it's just there to go, oh, okay, cool. Like there's a program for checking in places you can get on your phone.
Yeah.
You get like
the
badges.
Shopkick stuff.
There's another one, and all of them have like, you unlock this badge because you checked into 5 pizza places or whatever it is, and it just makes you use it, and it doesn't mean anything, but you want to do it anyway. Yep. So that's just a good move on their part.
It's, give me 1 second. Okay. So speaking of just random topic changing, what is there any new films that you're interested in looking at that are coming out in 2013?
Well, Iron Man 3.
Yes. That movie looks awesome.
It looks great. I can't remember. Just because of the name, I want to see Bullet to the Head. Sylvester Stallone. Just his name is funny.
That's the one where he plays the old hitman or something, right?
Yeah, it's something like... It's basically like Sylvester Stallone in Taken, basically. I also want to see Last Stand because Arnold Schwarzenegger's back in a movie. I mean, come on. I've missed him in movies.
Yes.
You always know what you're getting with Arnold Schwarzenegger. There's never a weird plot twist of his character. It's very much, you know who he is and you enjoy it. Yep.
It's just an enjoy, feel-good movie.
Yeah. I can't remember the name of this one movie, but it's got The Rock in it, and like they're all working out and they want to kidnap the guy for money.
I don't know this one.
I can't remember the name of it, but it just looks kind of funny. Like, I don't want to see it, but at the same time, because like The Rock is basically what you get from the trailers. The Rock came out of prison, he's all jacked out of his mind because he's The Rock, and they're doing workout stuff, but he's trying to be a good guy, and he's like, we can't kidnap somebody, that's highly illegal, and like he's just this big brawny dude you expect to be doing the bad stuff. It's kind of like the innocent guy in this whole thing, and it seems funny.
What's his name?
Dwayne Johnson.
Dwayne Johnson.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson. It's coming out. I don't know if it came out yet.
Let's see. According to IMDb, let's see. Empire State, Snitch, Pain and Gain.
Yeah, Pain and Gain. I think is it.
Pain and Gain. A trio of bodybuilders, in Florida, get caught in an extortion ring and a kidnapping scheme that goes terribly wrong.
Yeah, it just looks and sounds funny.
It is interesting. One film I am totally stoked for is Pacific Rim.
Oh yeah, Pacific Rim looks like it's gonna be great.
And what's great is it comes out the weekend of my birthday, so that's what we're doing.
Nice, that's cool. That looks good. I'm looking forward to G.I. Joe Retaliation.
Yes! What got me so stoked was the picture of Cobra Commander for that.
Yeah, more traditional.
I was like, yes, the one thing I'm slightly sad about is that it looks like Destro isn't in it.
Yeah, that would be nice to have Destro.
Because I like the guy who played him in the last one.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that movie as well. I can't think of much coming out, to be honest with you.
Yeah, there's really not much. The only other thing is there's Oblivion, which for the longest time I thought was supposed to be a movie version of the Elder Scrolls game.
Yes, that's true. When I first saw, that's what I thought. But looking at that trailer, it came out of nowhere, basically. I'm like, this looks kind of interesting.
There's also... Oh, there was this other film that I forget the name of it, and it's upsetting me because it looked really interesting. Oh, boy, how could I forget this? Is The Man of Steel. That looks pretty interesting, to a degree.
Man of Steel, it looks interesting. I'm so not a Superman fan that it's just like... And the fact that it's General Zod and Jor-El, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's just a little weird for me because they're kind of going for a more grounded approach to his superhero-ness. That gritty realism. And you're throwing more, basically, aliens into the mix. It's kind of like, whoa, let's simmer down first. I know you can't do Lex Luthor again because he's been overused, but let's not throw, like, the entire species at you.
The big question with that is like, one, it can't be worse than Superman Returns, because that was just god-awful. I mean, okay, for anyone out there who liked Superman Returns, let me just quickly explain why I hate Superman Returns so much. Is because when I went to see it, I saw it on my birthday. And so I'm watching it, and I go, and after I get out of the film, the person I was watching it with goes, well, what'd you think about it? And I was like, there was something off about it that I can't put my finger on. There was something about that film that's not sitting right with me. And she was like, oh, that's weird, but did you at least enjoy it? It's like, oh, I wasn't bored through the film, so I guess you could say I was enjoying it. And then, not a week later, the first Superman movie was on TV celebrating the release of Superman Returns. And I clicked in just when Lex Luthor's doing his whole speech about his whole plan. The sun, stocks may rise and fall and all that stuff. And immediately I went, oh my god, Superman Returns was the plot of Superman 1. And that's why I couldn't stay at that film, because it was a rehash of Superman 1. And it was literally, like, every scene started flowing through my head, and my brain was literally comparing shots side by side. I was like, crap, everything is practically the same. This is why I didn't like that movie.
Understandable. Superman is just, to me, a boring character, personally. Like, the thing I like about him is that his disguise is Clark Kent.
Yeah.
Trying to be us. That is a really cool idea. His secret identity is, well, his costume, if you will.
Yeah.
Is Clark Kent. That's not his secret identity. His secret identity is Superman, basically.
Way to quote Kill Bill 2 there.
But I've always liked that before Kill Bill 2.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, that's, like, it's, like, the perfect way of explaining it.
It is. And, like, when Kill Bill 2 explained it, I'm like, thank you, somebody else said it, and now it's on the movie, people will think it's, an idea. But aside from that, I don't like Superman at all. Like, I just find him to be boring, and he's always... And part of it is the writing. He's got weaknesses unless it's in the way, and then you just kind of forget that he's weak to things, and he just wins.
Yeah.
And it's just like, come on, really? But, and it's just... I don't know, I just never was a big fan of Superman, so that's why I'm not super into Man of Steel, but it does look like it'll be done well. I like his costume, it looks more real.
It looks like it's going to be a good Superman movie, but if I had any issue with it, and this is just me, thinking about what could I possibly not like about it, is the fact that the villain is General Zod. Because Superman has so many villains, why do we only use General Zod and Lex Luthor in any film he's in? Why not throw in Parasite? Why not Brainiac? Why not some of the
Brainiac.
Other villains that they like Doomsday would be an interesting one as well if they wanted to just take a break from the Superman franchise, but only if Doomsday is voiced by Macho Man Randy Savage, because that would just be awesome.
Yeah, unfortunately that can't happen anymore.
No, it can't.
But that's the thing, like, I love Brainiac. If Brainiac was the villain, I see it because I just like that concept of what he is. And it's something different. The thing that I'm also just kind of interested in about with this movie is that this is the Superman for the Justice League.
Yeah.
This is going to be that Superman. And it's interesting because I'm looking at the way it's shot and everything like that, and then I'm looking at the Green Lantern. And they're going to have to redo it.
Yeah.
Because the style is so more comic booky, and like the bright colors and whatnot, it so wouldn't mesh with Man of Steel.
Yeah. One thing that's interesting is like, how DC is approaching this, doing the reverse Avengers as it is.
Yeah.
Making the big group film first that way, because like their biggest issue, I guess, say with any of the superheroes other than Batman and Superman is nobody knows who they are.
It's true. That's very true. I was talking about this with a friend of mine the other day, and I was saying, it makes sense to go with the Justice League first. It's less money to produce all these characters in case it doesn't do that well.
Yeah.
You didn't do, or at least you can get it done. Like if that's your dream project, you can do it and not worry about, these 3 other characters didn't have good movies. We don't really want to fund this or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But there's also a way to introduce characters that are kind of hard to introduce, like the Green Lantern. I think he's a cool. I like the concept of him. No, nobody knows what he can do really. Nobody understands his power set. But he'll be a perfect way to introduce him. Is the Justice League movie? Just have him in there. You can introduce characters through that and get basically you don't have to worry about a backstory movie. Just get people going. This is what he's about. Okay.
Yep.
And the Green Lantern movie, I stand by the fact that I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was a decent movie, but nobody understands Green Lantern, and nobody expected aliens.
Yes. So. One thing I'd have to say is I went into the Green Lantern movie expecting a garbage film because I was like, there has not been a really decent DC superhero movie in a while, and Green Lantern is, as you mentioned, a really hard character to do out of comic books.
Yes.
And I was very shocked with how it was done. I liked how they did Parallax. It made one of the sillier villains actually more believable.
Yeah.
And it was interesting how they did Hal Jordan. They kind of meshed a bunch of the Green Lanterns together, but used Hal as the center because he is the original.
Right.
If anything, the only one thing is that I think what a couple of people the Clown doesn't like about it is he doesn't like the look of the power ring. He didn't he thought it looked way too fake, and in his sense, and I could agree to a degree, is you can't really do the Green Lantern special effects and make them look good with today's current special effects technology.
To an extent, it's true because his power just doesn't look. It's not that it doesn't look good, but it's not a power that can look good on screen.
Yeah, it's very hard to present it.
Yeah, and a lot of people didn't understand that that's what he does. He makes things to solve problems, basically.
Yeah.
And people are like, it's silly. It's like, well, that's how it works. And I'm sorry, but that's how it's always worked.
An interesting thing is I think it would have been easier, even though he wasn't the original, if Kyle Rayner was the first Green Lantern, because he's a comic book artist. So when he does the Hot Wheels track, you can go, okay, comic book artist, he would draw something funky like that. Whereas in this movie, the only reference to the Hot Wheels track is his nephew has it in his room.
Right.
And so you really don't get, wait a minute, test pilot, Hot Wheels track, what? The only construct that he makes that makes sense is the Gatling gun and the 2 jets.
Yeah. And it's just, but even people kind of like, that's silly. I'm like, well, that's how it works.
Yeah.
But, and the thing with him is, and the thing is with DC, is that, versus Marvel, yes, Batman and Superman, people get it. They're very popular characters. They're the most popular in DC. And after them is a kind of a big jump to the next most popular guy.
Yeah.
Think about it. With Marvel, there's so many in the upper echelons of popularity that when you're going down it, there's so many to choose from that people understand the concept of. Even, for example, Iron Man, when that movie came out, Iron Man, I don't want to say he's an obscure Marvel, because he's really not, but he's so understandable. Dude in a really powerful suit, got it. I understand how this works. I'm good. And then when you go to the Green Lantern, or if they tried the Flash, you'd be like, I don't understand.
Yeah,
Marvel are easy to understand. In DC, aside from Batman and Superman, you get Batman, billionaire playboy, who's a genius and a martial arts master. He's got the money to make the suit. Batman suit. Superman, godlike being. Okay, and after that, you kind of I don't understand.
Yeah. It's also, I find that I feel that unlike DC, the Marvel characters are easier to sell because they're easily recognizable. I'm not a big Marvel fan at all. Unless Doctor Doom was in the story arc, I don't buy the comic.
Right.
But when the Iron Man movie came out, I was like, oh, Iron Man, dude in a suit. I know what this is. Oh, Hulk, turns into big giant green monster when he gets angry. I can get behind this. They're easier to get behind. Even someone like Captain America, which I'd say is probably the more obscure of the Marvel characters, just primarily because he's one of those you really need to be into Marvel to know him other than his name.
Yeah.
Even he's easier to market because it's just a dude who's super patriotic and super strong.
Yeah, he basically is a super soldier serum.
Yeah.
You go, what's Captain America? Well, he's a really patriotic dude who became a super soldier. Got it. Okay, let's do this.
And what's also interesting is how they did it. They introduced the super soldier serum in the Hulk. So when they threw in Captain America, everyone was like, oh, that's what they were talking about. Oh, that's that whole super soldier project being put on ice thing meant. Like, they did it in a way where if you had no idea who Captain America was, but you saw the Hulk movie, you'd understand what was going on.
Yeah, and the thing about Marvel is Marvel, too, just has more of a pop culture presence than DC. Outside of Batman and Superman, and you can say the Justice League to an extent, but even that's pushing it a little bit.
Yeah.
Marvel's had X-Men cartoons. Marvel's had Hulk TV show with Lou Ferrigno. Marvel's had Spider-Man. Marvel's had Iron Man. They've been out already outside of comic books. They've been in pop culture already. Yeah. And they're just easy to understand. Even now, they're gonna go with like what Ant-Man or whatever it is, and like Wasp or whatever. They're gonna make more obscure stuff.
Yes, I've heard of that.
But even still, it's just, I don't know, Marvel characters, I don't want to say feel more believable because they're comic book, fakeness, but they're easier to wrap your head around. Like the Green Lantern is a perfect example of a DC character where you go, somebody's got to explain this to me.
It's also like a good example of that. Just bringing it is Wonder Woman. Like my girlfriend was like, "Wait a minute, so she can deflect bullets?" And I had to say, "Well, no, it's this bracer thing that she does. Her power isn't actually the ability to deflect bullets."
Yeah.
But it's just a random thing they throw in, and you have no idea what to say to that.
Yeah, and the thing about Wonder Woman, is aside from people knowing who she is because it's kind of like the whole sex appeal, it's a very attractive, female character, strong female lead, and she's a strong female character, which they understand that because of how she looks and is a female, so it's kind of like different as opposed to Batman and Superman and everything.
Yeah.
Nobody, and myself included, I'm not really well versed in her origin story. I don't know why she has a magic lasso. I don't understand why she has an invisible plane. I don't understand. I don't even know who her villains are. I mean, it's that's hard because when you look at Wonder Woman, you go, what is she aside from an Amazonian? You kind of I don't understand too well. Even the Martian Manhunter, you kind of he's from Mars, I guess. Sure.
Yeah.
I don't understand. There's things and even the Flash is kind of who I would love to see in a movie. And I would love to see the guy who played the Green Lantern be the Flash.
Oh, Ryan Reynolds, he would make a great Flash.
Even he's kind of he's got the speed. He's super speeder. He's the most, aside from Batman and Superman, except for the fact that he's kind of obscure in comparison. He's the easiest next superhero from DC to understand. He's super fast. Got it.
I think one thing that I'd have to say is I think what's DC has over Marvel, but what Marvel has over DC is DC has recognizability with the logos. If you see the Batman symbol, you see the Superman, the Wonder Woman, the Flash, or the Green Lantern, you're like, oh, that's Batman, that's Wonder Woman, that's Green Lantern, that's Flash. Whereas on the Marvel side, I could look at half the symbols for those guys and be like, what the heck are those? But what Marvel has over DC is Marvel has characters you can relate to, and thus you can get more into them. Whereas it's really hard to relate to an Amazonian woman who can fly and came from a mold of clay because her mother thinks men are douches.
Basically, it's hard to relate to that. It's hard to relate to a billionaire, genius, perfect person who can,
He has the life everybody wants, but hates his existence because of one bad thing. Granted, yes, losing your parents is a horrible thing, but they always try to make him look like this really tragic character when he's driving a Ferrari.
Yeah, and it's hard to relate to a guy that you will never have a percent of his money. And then you have Superman. He's an alien. You can't relate to that. Even the aliens of Marvel feel more relatable. I just think DC, I don't want to say it's colder in their approach, but Marvel is very much more like pop culture approach, where DC is much more you got to be in it to win it.
Yeah.
Thing. You got to want to enjoy DC.
Yeah.
You can't just have a passing interest.
Yeah, and it's even worse with like the whole reboot with DC where they're trying to get back, a newer audience, and it's just their characters I just think are too hard for new people to come into. Like for Spider-Man is a really easy character to get into. And even if they did lose anybody from the whole One More Day thing, they still have the character to gain back everybody they lost with the new story arc. Like, they're just easier to attach to. Like, they're more like that dude in the cafeteria. You could just say, hey, he's a cool guy. I'm going to sit down and talk with him. Whereas the DC character's just like, I don't know anything about you, and I don't want to know anything about you.
Basically, and Spider-Man is the perfect example for Marvel. Spider-Man is probably, I want to say, more of their poster child than any other superhero, because Spider-Man is this down-on-his-luck teenage kid that everybody, the dude that was picked on, whatever, like, he's like the everybody's hero. He's what everybody would want to have happen to them. Granted, he had a tragic event also. Yeah. But like, he's this kid who he's the perfect like kind of role model in a sense. He wants to do the right thing. He understands responsibility. He's a regular dude who gets bit by Reddit. He gets the powers, and he basically gets the ultimate wish gratification of being able to take control of his life and become more than what he was. And it's just what every little teenage adolescent kid who isn't the football star or isn't a super popular guy wants. And it's just very relatable for everybody, even for like girls. He's very relatable because he's just super relatable when you compare it to like Batman. Yeah. It's like Spider-Man is the most relatable, I think, out of any of Marvel's things out there. So, like, I think Marvel did it well that way. I'm not saying DC is bad at all. It's just that DC, you have to look at it and go, Flash, I like that concept. I want to learn about it. Yeah, you gotta want to be interested in DC, where it's easier to get to grow an interest in Marvel. I want to say DC is a bit darker than Marvel.
It is. DC's been getting very dark with a lot of their stuff. Like, with the whole Green Lantern, like, they're going this really dark look on it. And sadly, Green Lantern, going on as example, is one of the reasons why I may stop reading DC, is because Green Lantern is the issue where there's been like since Hal Jordan came back, the villain has pretty much been exactly the same in every story arc. The Guardians are douchebags, and that's been the theme for pretty much every single story arc thus far. And I'm literally giving this new story arc the one chance. They have this one chance to turn me around and say, okay, I was wrong about this, but I may actually be quitting DC after the Green Lantern run just because they're reusing the same story plot like 6 times.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, even without their trying to make it darker, you look at Batman. Batman's dark. Yeah. Like, the whole concept of what he is kind of dark. And you look at Marvel, they're dark, like, I don't want to say the darkest character. One of their darker characters is the Punisher. Even that isn't really built dark, it's built more action-packed, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, he's more action than dark, where Batman's dark. I mean, Superman is like a shining beacon in a dark time, you know? It's kind of like, it's, the idea is that DC is a little bit more, dark in its theme, where Marvel is kind of, I don't want to say being happy, but it's just not, even when it does dark things, it just feels less dark. And I think that's another thing that a lot of people can not relate to, but enjoy. It's kind of like, you can read it and not get depressed type of thing.
I feel also that DC is very big on the plot twist conspiracy, going off of where there's something happening, like this mild event, and then this mild event blows up into this huge thing, which then goes into an even grander thing by the end of it. At least I find with Marvel, when they do story arcs, they basically lay it down on the table and don't try to hide. Like, they hide, their plot twists. It's like, oh, it's actually this villain's plan or anything, but they never try to hide, oh, that whole little riot thing that's going on that's burning up? Yeah, it's actually a cover-up to blow up the world type of thing.
Yeah, and I'm just, I'm done with the crisis. I'm done with the different crises.
Crises have been getting a little bit old, and that's probably why I kind of like Marvel a little bit more now, is they have, like I said, they put more of what's going on to the forefront, so you know what you're getting into, and there's less apocalyptic events going on.
I'm all for having an apocalyptic event every so often.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes you gotta have the end of the world's coming to really kick things into high gear and make people, show their colors type of thing. And really go like, oh, this guy is actually can really pull his weight or do whatever it is. Have the unexpected hero type of thing, sure. But, like, the Crisis, like, first off, the Infinite Crisis was a lie because it ended. And then you have, like, the Final Crisis, which wasn't the Final Crisis, I don't think.
And that was supposed to be where I think they were going to reboot there, and then they decided not to.
So it's just kind of like, part of it is the name wordplay, and I'm just being nitpicky there with the wordplay, but another part of it is, like, how many times can you basically destroy your universe and bring it back?
Yeah.
Like, that just speaks to me of desperation a little bit.
And so I think this is a perfect time to end it here. And so thank you everybody for watching. Thank you Wildcard for taking the time to join us today.
Oh, no problem. It's fun to do this type of stuff. I'll have to try and do it more when we do, as it comes.
Yep. So we will be seeing you guys again next week. If there's any type of topic that you'd want us to just josh about, throw it in. If there's like a question or something you have for you guys, this is the time to ask them, because we'll have a little bit better time to answer them than with, say, some of our other videos. So
yeah, this is more this is just like sitting around chatting around a coffee table type thing. There's no set plan with this.
Yep, so if there's like just some random question that you're always wanting to ask or something, throw it in the comments and we will definitely get back to it. It's probably be a lot easier for us to answer it on this than we would, say, on Touching Base, since Touching Base is very more formatted, as it were. Whereas that one, we do take ideas for topics, but probably less of a chance of asking us a question and getting it answered there, whereas kind of like that's what this whole thing is for.
Yep.
And so we will talk to you guys next week. So until next time, Fearless Gamers, this is Matt the Vet saying see you later.
Take it easy from the Wildcard.